Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Love Your Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant. Hope you are doing fantastic today and you woke up with a smile on your face this morning, joy in your heart, and prosperity to experience. And so there's one thing that contributes to all of that, an endless amount, and that is what today's topic is about. Guys, thank you for joining me. If you're joining me in the present, thank you for being here. If you're joining me sometime in the future, thank you for being here. Each and every way you're joining me, you are appreciated in every sense of the word. So thank you for your presence. Thank you for your support. And so today we're going to talk a bit about God's consciousness, okay? And so when you think of God's consciousness, for some people, God is a trigger word that brings them right back to religion, but God's consciousness is actually a quantum physics term, right? So scientists actually were the ones that created this, but it also has spiritual connotations to it, which we're going to get into here in just a bit. But it's understanding what is God's consciousness. And so this topic, this truth, if you will, has been resonating within my state of being for the longest time. And what's interesting is, the most interesting thing about it is this. I have felt that, well, let me tell you what it is first, okay? Before I get off and go on a tangent. God's consciousness is that state of being, that state of existence where everything is not only just perfect, it is in its original godlike state, okay? God's consciousness is that state of being, acting, living, that every single thing is in its original state, not just perfect, but in its original perfect state. Okay? And it's also been called the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. It's been called the 0-point energy field. It's been called these amazing names. But God's consciousness, that's exactly what it is. And guess what? It is accessible to you right now. It is accessible to you at every point throughout the day. Every moment throughout the day, this consciousness is accessible to you, and you only have to identify, concentrate, and allow it to resonate within your own state of being. And I can promise you before long, and sometimes not even that long period of time, you do this in your life, by law, has to reflect the consciousness that you're carrying. This is where it comes in, where I talked about in the title. It's been the thing that we've been looking for, the love, the grace, the power that we've needed our entire lives. Why? Why would I say such a thing? Because understand, let's dive into this. And I want to be as succinct and clear as possible because I really want you to get this. I really want you to understand what this means and what this entails for anyone that is willing to take this path of existence. So, the perfect example, an illustration for you to understand how this is. I want you to think about when you bought your first car, and if you hadn't bought a first car yet, your first house, and if you hadn't done any of that, that's okay. Just think about when you got something extraordinarily, unequivocally brand new. And think about the state that this manifestation was in. Think about that. Okay? In most cases, there's no blemishes, There's no scratches. There's no wear. There's no tear. There's no anything that would make it less than the perfect entity that it is. Okay? Now I want you to think about that and let that dwell in. Think deeply about that. Okay? Now, I want to take you back to the time where you were conceived, not born, but conceived. Right? Because when we were conceived, this is a time where we're not picking up things in the womb from the people outside or stimulations or experiences or anything like that. So draw your attention back to that time. And this is a time where you were completely perfect. You still are, because there's perfect and imperfection, as the divine says, but in a state, you were completely perfect in your original state, which means what? There is no struggle. There's no lack. There is no need, right? There is no competition. There is no comparison. There is no thought whatsoever of something has to be different than what it is right now. And take a moment to really dwell on the perfection, the originality that is that state, right? Fast forward 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, wherever you are right now. And think about how far from that original state it might seem like you are. Right? Think about how far. But the truth of the matter is, that state of being is not something that could ever leave you, because it's a part of you. The God consciousness is a part of you. It's not something that could leave you. It's not something that you could find yourself shit out of luck trying to recapture. No. This state of consciousness has been with you and will continue to be with you even after you transition. And so when I think of the magnitude of what that means, when I think of the importance and significance of what that means, it makes me want to figure out, how do I get back into this state of consciousness where everything is perfect, right? Everything is of God. And so in order to do that, you have to understand who and what God is, right? If we grew up in religion, God tends to be the old man in the sky with the hand that shoots lightning rods and lightning bolts to strike us down and reprimand us and make us feel like crap whenever we do something wrong. If we're further along spiritually, then we understand that God is a merciful God. God is a God who loves us. God is a God who wants us to be happy. God is a God who desires to give us the true, amazing desires of our heart. And then we take it a step further. God is that thing that we just spoke of, but it's also inside of you, inside of everything else. Heck, it is everything else. And it's not only everything else in its present state, it's everything else in its most perfect, original state. Okay? Everything, even whatever it is that looks worn out through potential energy, through potential substance. We talked about substance a lot on these other podcasts. That perfect state still exists. It still exists. And so when I understand, when you understand that the perfect state that God has created as me, who is himself, who is one and the same with itself, I say himself because I identify with God as a father figure. But that perfect state still exists, and the way to tap into it is to surrender and to focus on it. And when I say focus, I don't mean you have to basically zero in and burn a hole through the idea, but you allow the idea to come to you. As a matter of fact, I'd like to give you an example right now. Let's just take you through it. So wherever you are, whether you're seating, lying down, up and doing something, you can be in the God consciousness wherever you are. So I want you to just take a minute and just breathe, right? And just really dive into the moment of what is happening right now. And understand that in this moment, excluding everything outside of you, and what I mean by everything outside of you, everything you think that creates and makes up your life, excluding all of that stuff, only focusing on your breath, right? Because the breath is the gateway to the God consciousness, because the breath reminds us that we're just as perfect as we were the day we were conceived. So really think about that. Really focus on your breath. And so just because this may be new to you, you can start with an intention. And one of my favorites is this. Divine intelligence, it is my greatest intention to be, feel, and have divine perfection. It is my greatest intention, divine intelligence, to be, feel, and have divine perfection. And so, here is what unfolds. Here is what happens. In that state, everything that was once a problem is no longer a problem because the mind is fixated on a higher truth. The mind is fixated on perfection alone, right? And perfection alone means perfection in everything. Let's just say you're having certain issues with things in your life. You're having certain trouble with things in your life. In the God consciousness, that problem, okay, that problem is brought back to its original state. Perfect example, you're in debt. You have a lot of debt. When the God consciousness, you're brought back to the debt number of 0. There is no debt. It is perfection. 0 debt, right? Let's say your bank account is lacking in cash, and not that we need to be completely absorbed in our bank accounts, right? Because we don't, but it is part of living here, and substance is prevalent, and money is a good thing when we use it wisely. But let's just say you're at that place where you're lacking a bit. In the God state of consciousness, you are absolutely, unimaginably abundant, filled with as much money as you need and desire to live the life that you choose to live. And here's why. Because in your original state financially, there are no blocks, there are no hang-ups, there are no bad decisions, there are no bad choices, there are no mistakes. It is all perfect. Right? And this state of consciousness exists within you. And all you have to do is access it. Access it. Right? And just allow it. See, we never want to get caught up in feeling like there's work to be done to do this, because there isn't any work other than to just relax into the truth of what is. Right? And what is God. Because God is every single thing that you could possibly see that is in front of you, or that you can't see. And it's that thing or substance, better term for it, in its original state. I want to keep going with these examples, because once we know this, we can begin to dwell and to fixate our focus and consciousness on this state of being, right? So in a nutshell, just in case you wanted to remember something about this state that's easy to remember: nothing missing, nothing taken away, nothing added, nothing subtracted, because it's all here in its perfect state, and it exists that way. So let's continue. Relationships, right? When was the relationship likely the best for most people? In the very beginning, when it was perfect, when all you could see was love, your own expression of love on that other person. That exists, but it exists in a more mature way. But it still exists in the God consciousness. That original state of consciousness when you first were in love exists now, and it's relevant to where you are with your partner now. Tap into it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. Right? Don't wait. Your body. This is a big one. Right? And this one goes so much deeper. Why? Because our bodies are usually products of not how much fitness we do, not how much exercise, or any of that other shit. Our bodies are products of the emotions that we carry throughout the course of our lives, from our loved ones, from ourselves. And so you begin to realize your body, in most cases, unless you've healed it, is carrying a lot of junk around. All right? So when the body's carrying a lot of junk, it's going to show that junk. Contrary to popular belief, it's not about what you ingest physically. It's more about what you ingest emotionally. That's going to be the cause of how you look. But in the God consciousness, in the God state of consciousness, all possibilities exist at all times. This is where the quantum term comes from. All possibilities exist at all times. And guess what? One of those possibilities, the only possibility you need to be concerned with, is the possibility of the original perfect state, right? The original perfect state of being. And in that original perfect state of being, the body has no hang-ups, it has no emotions, it has no quirks, it has no resistance, it has none of that stuff that stops you from feeling your very best, and you can choose to feel that now, right? And it's not like you sit here and you lie to yourself if you're overweight, but it's more about tapping into who you really are. Because see, there's what the physical aspect of life tells us that we are right now, and then there's the aspect of us that the God consciousness tells us that we are. And in the God consciousness, absolute, uninhibited perfection. Original. Perfect, right down to the T. That is what exists in every single area. I like to call this the Adam and Eve state of being. Because if you're familiar with the Adam and Eve story from the Bible, before they took a bite of the forbidden fruit, they had no needs. There was no lack. There was no struggle. There was no comparison. There was no competition. There was no selfishness. There was no me trying to get you before you can get me. There was no game playing, right? So this state of consciousness is what I like to call the Adam and Eve state before all this stuff happened. Because once they took a bite of the fruit, then they realized, one, that they were naked, which means that, they started looking in lack. They started to see what was not there, as opposed to understanding that in God's paradise, in God's consciousness, everything is present. Everything is accessible. Everything is here and now. It starts within you. And once you focus on it enough, guess what? Your consciousness has to be a manifestation of your thinking, of your feeling. And it is worth every single ounce of energy you have to do this every single moment of the day, if you possibly can, to be into this God consciousness, because it will manifest for you. You will begin to see things almost miraculously right themselves without hesitation. Because everything within the consciousness of God must be perfect. The true consciousness of God must be perfect, must be original. That is a gift, ladies and gentlemen, that the divine has bestowed upon us, that is available no matter who you are. You can be living in the slums of India right now, and you understand what the God consciousness is, and you can pull yourself out and be as rich, with rich ideas, and peaceful and happy as you decide to be, because you know the truth. And as Jesus so eloquently put it, and you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And this is what he did his entire life. This is why so many miracles became so easy, because there is that God consciousness state that you can get yourself into before you do anything, and understand that what you're looking at is returned to its state of original perfection. This is why the healings are so miraculous. You understand the thing, the object, the entity, the manifestation of substance is returned to its original state of being. Original state of perfection of being. Powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. I'm telling you, guys, it's worth it. It's worth diving into this. It's worth understanding that if you do this, you set yourself up to live the life that not only has prosperity, peace, love, joy, happiness, but has purpose and is guided by the divine. It's amazing. It's amazing to think that it's still accessible, even to this point, after all life could have potentially brought us. It's still accessible. Go get what's yours. As a matter of fact, don't go get it. Just get it. Accept it. Say you accept right now. And if you have any questions about this, guys, please contact me. I'd be more than happy to help with any questions. Email SeanG04@gmail.com. Facebook, if you have my Facebook, ask me on Facebook. Not a problem. It is of great importance for me to be able to make sure that this is conveyed in a way that it can be used to help you to live your best life, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Happy Sunday, one of my favorite topics ever. Take what's yours. It's all there. It's all there. Take what's yours, guys. Have a wonderful day. We will talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.